So I'm here backstage at ECEC 2022 with Cecilia, who's just come off the main stage. And
Yes.
Tell us a little bit how you got into compliance.
Ooh, okay. So I'll start way back, but I'll shorten it. At 10 years old, I was looking at Law and Order with my mom, big fan. And I saw the prosecutor do their thing, and I was like, I want to be a prosecutor. I want to put those bad guys in prison. So they started there, so I decided to do a legal career, did everything you had to do, but then I specialized in white-collar crime. And I worked in international law firms and quickly saw it wasn't a good fit for me. And so the logical step was compliance, right? It was a link to white-collar crime, and my specialty was corruption, actually. So it was just a logical step.
And what particularly fascinates you about this then? I mean, is it the people that you're dealing with, the issues?
A bit of both, right? So it depends in which company you work for. So I went from huge companies like HSBC to now I work in tech. I would never go back. But it's super interesting for a career to see. So HSBC was super interesting was the cases. I saw really interesting cases. The investigations I did were really interesting from a knowledge perspective. But why I love the tech industry is that I'm much closer to the people. And why I love as well is that I create compliance functions from scratch. That really gets me going. So often these people don't know about compliance, they don't even know the concept of it. So it's really all about educating people, bringing them together. That's why I do a lot of, that's why I often say go there, speak to people, because they need to see your face. They often think about, scandals like the one Xavier told, but actually a lot of the compliance work it happens behind the scenes, and we're talking about smaller cases from a media coverage, so it's like harassment, discrimination, and so on, and that should be the focus as well.
And it's fascinating talking about setting them up because in organizations that have got compliance, everybody accepts that it has to be there.
Yeah.
When you're in a smaller organization, in some respects, it's voluntary as to whether you have that function. You could
Yes.
manage it by other means. What's the business case for compliance there?
So often I get hired because they have shareholders they're requesting it, or they eventually want to do IPO. And so when you have to do an IPO, you need to have people like me to launch compliance function, risk functions, but also internal controls. And often that's the business case. Well, sometimes it changes, and that's what happened in my current company. They're really all about sustainability and ethical practices. And that's a big pillar of what I do, and that's also why I love working where I'm working at the moment, is that it's not only about compliance and complying with the law and whatever you need to do from an IPO perspective, but it's also about what good is. How do we be better, and how do we behave ethically?
And how do you manage that tension between regulations that are externally imposed and ethics that generally comes from within?
Well, in the tech industry, it's a bit easier because it's not as regulated as in the banking or finance industry. So it's easier to it's 50-50 really, and everything gets intertwined. So you start with obviously the regulation, which is basic, you have to, but then it often feeds in our ethical practices. Obviously, in the banking industry it's very different. I think the focus is definitely on regulation, but in other industries, it's much more on the ethical side.
Fantastic. And look, final question. First time at ECEC 2022. Yes. How was it?
It was fun. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah, it's very interesting to meet new people, especially Xavier. I spoke to him before. I got really excited about his story. But yeah, really looking forward even to next year. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.